it's there, but how do you get around that, right? Like if someone says, who are you to judge someone if they're in a bad situation? A couple of months ago, we had that situation of that young girl who was raped by her father or her in one of the Latin American countries, and she was pregnant, and they were afraid she was going to die if they didn't abort the child. And so the argument came and said, well, I don't like abortion, but come on, this little kid's going to die. It's not even her fault. That's so morally relativistic, it's crazy. That example could have been made up by someone who was trying to prove a point. Why? One, we've shifted blame or attention completely away from the rapist, who is the person we should be more focusing on. And we've also shifted focus away from saying something is right or wrong. And by doing something else, we're not making it better. And that's the problem. We have to be very careful. Something is wrong, but performing something else wrong is not helping the situation. It's just, that's the example used. Why? Because it breaks your heart. Because again, what's the sacred virtue of moral relativism is tolerance. How can you be so intolerant? What's the matter with you? You have to tolerate other people's cultures. Here's the argument. Here's the problem. Okay? Tolerance is not a problem. You should tolerate people. Right? When you came in, when those 1800s explorers and kind of, you know, anthropologists started exploring other parts of the world, they were wrong for saying those filthy pagans. Yes, they were wrong. But there's a difference between tolerating or not tolerating, or there's a difference between loving the person and accepting the action. And that's the big trick that we all fall for most of the time. If you love me, you'll let me do this. No, I love you, and because I love you, I don't want you to do that. Shrink it down to a simpler example. A baby gets dirty. Because the mother loves the child, she's not going to leave the child to go to bed filthy, even if the kid hates showers. Well, but it's their own body. Yes, and that's why, it's because it's their own body that the mother's like, yeah, that's why I have to care for it. And the kid doesn't want to care for it themselves. Then I have to step in and help them. Oh, wait, what are you trying to say? We should have a nanny state that should control everything? No. But we should have some basic parameters of what's allowable and what's not. Now watch this. Have you guys seen the confession kid meme? It's a picture of a little boy. I think he's on a school bus and he's kind of like this. And it's, when I was younger, I thought this. And it's like stupid things that we all thought when we were younger. Like, one was like, I saw this one. When I was younger, I thought electronic doors had a camera and there was a man downstairs, so I would wave at the door. You know, to pick it up. Or when I was younger, I thought the moon traveled with us whenever my parents drove me somewhere at night because it seemed to move with us. Or usually they're cute. Sometimes they're really embarrassing. When I was younger, I thought, you know, girls and boys were the same, so I used to put on, you know, whatever. I used to try to put my sister's clothing on. My mother, I couldn't understand why my mother got mad. Or when I was younger, and then there's like just frankly sexually explicit ones that I don't want to get into, but there's ladies present, so I don't want to. But you're like, wow, all right, nah, I didn't think that. That's too far. Too far. Like, that's just weird. Why? Because when you're young, you come up with something in life. Now you don't have to go that far back. Fun little exercise. I do this with myself every year or two. Take music from 10 or 15 or 20 years ago that you liked. If you don't remember what you liked, look at the top 20. You probably like some of it, let's be honest here, in a field. Listen to it and try to imagine your worldview when you used to listen to that song. I put on that stupid song by Smash Mouth. It's been 1 week since you looked at me, put your hands in the air, and I was like, man, I was a tool. Like, I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore, you know? Or like, I put on like, oh man, this is like 15, 20 years ago. I walk rough and tough with my Afro puffs. Yeah, go on with your back. That's an old rap song. She wasn't even that good at it. I think she had one hit. But anyway, when I put it on, and I remember thinking, do I see the world the same way? No. And I'm very glad I don't. And for me to say, I'm glad I don't see it that way is not me being mean to myself. It's saying I've learned a little bit more and I'm able to make different choices. So the same with people who have cultural differences or personal differences. There's nothing wrong with saying, fine, they have that point of view and I love that person, but we can't leave them that way. Well, they're not hurting anyone else. It doesn't matter. Are they hurting themselves or are they just doing something wrong? Do we let children have imaginary friends past a certain point, even if it doesn't hurt anyone? No, because at a certain point you're going, wait, this is a little bit dangerous. We need you to ground yourself in reality. Another way to put it is this. 2 plus 2 is 4, and I believe that. I believe that as much as I believe abortion is wrong. And That's a big statement that not everybody can make. Or, how about this? I believe rape is wrong just as strongly as I believe contraception is wrong. Oh, come on. That's maybe easier for people. Whoa, that's a big difference. Of course there's a big difference. Good Lord, there's a big difference. Thank God there's a big difference. But they're wrong. I'm just trying to say that and most of us are not comfortable with that because our society's great virtue is tolerance. But be careful. I'm not saying to make a judgment on the person. We're not anyone to judge. But we can say that there is a standard. There is an action that are unacceptable and actions that are acceptable. None of us accept lying, and everyone does it. And I mean, everyone does it. Okay? We don't accept that. It's not an okay thing to do. There are certain things that are bad for civilization. Bad for breeds of animals. Like, you know, killing your young is bad for any other species. We do this actively. We pay for this, actually, for other people to do this. We suggest this. Linda and Bill Gates, you know, famously, we need to help people not have children because that's how they get out of poverty. What happened to the tolerance there, where the culture is to have many, many children? You have to be careful, because once you don't have a ground to base yourself on, anything can be supplied to you quietly. Go back to Bruce Jenner and that poor lady, whatever her name is. I want to call her Afro Lady, but it's not even really her Afro. So, I mean, I don't know. I have it here somewhere.
Rachel
Dolezal. Yeah. Poor lady. I feel bad for her. Like, why is that okay? Or for her to make her hair to look particularly African-American, if you want to call it that, that's terrible. But when Beyonce dyes and straightens her hair blonde, that's beauty. What? That's bananas. That's insane. That's not appropriate. That's not okay. But we hold one thing as okay and one thing as not. And that's because in a morally relativistic society, which we live in, then things are just, your right and wrong are just supplied for you. Open the newspapers and they're supplied for you. You know, the riots in Baltimore are horrible. All rioting is horrible. What people don't want to quote is the Martin Luther King quote where he said, rioting is the expression of people who have been left voiceless. Martin Luther King. Or Baltimore, when Martin Luther King was killed, looked identical. What are we saying? That it's right? No. But I am saying that you have to be careful that right and wrong has been picked for us. Well, I don't believe that, Father. I know you don't, but you know what it's like? My favorite analogy. If I told you never to get wet, if Richard, when he was a little boy, he got his Easter clothes, they said, don't go jump in a puddle. He was like, okay. He wouldn't jump in a puddle, hopefully. But if he hangs around outside and it's very foggy, after a while, his clothing will get just as wet as if he jumped in a puddle. But it's so much more dangerous because it happens slowly. And you only notice when you step into the warmth and then you realize. Our culture is so soaked in moral relativism. In as long as you do you and you don't hurt me, that's okay. It's so soaked in, steeped in it, that if you had just be around our culture long enough, it's okay. Why is it? Think about it. One of the oldest institution known to man, marriage. Why is it that we're leaving it to each state to decide this? That sounds insane. Are you saying that that's different in one state than in another? That can't make sense.